It's undoubtedly been a very difficult season for Shane Beamer and for South Carolina in a year where the Gamecocks are not going to be going to a bowl game, going to finish under 500 for the second time in 3 years. And there's just been a lot more downs than ups throughout this very long year in 2025. But at least for one night, things felt completely different as South Carolina snapped a 5-game losing streak and won for the first time in nearly 2 months in a 51-7 win over Coastal Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday. And it was as I mentioned, just a completely different feeling, much different change of pace from all of the lulls that the Gamecocks have been going through over the past few months. I mean, the last time they won a game, as I mentioned, September 27th, all the way back against Kentucky, way back in the season. And things have changed a lot since then, a lot of hardship, but you got to give a lot of credit to Beamer and his staff and just the players as well for not giving up and continuing to stay motivated. That's one thing that Beamer has done really well throughout his 5 seasons as the head coach at South Carolina, is just continuing to keep his guys ready to play, regardless of what the situation is. The one that South Carolina has been going through this season, I think, is probably more difficult than any that they've had to endure throughout his tenure. But again, just as always, the team continues to go out there and play inspiring football. And that's what we saw here tonight at Williams-Brice Stadium in just a real dominant win over Coastal Carolina. Now, I know it's going to be said, oh, it's Coastal Carolina. This was supposed to happen, right? South Carolina was 23.5-point favorites coming into this game. And yeah, you'd be right. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. And it's not surprising to see South Carolina play a dominant brand of football in this game, both offensively and defensively. But the way in which they won this game, I think, is really impressive. Start out with the offense. 579 yards of offense and 50-plus points put up. First time that's happened all season. I'd have to go back and look at when the last time South Carolina's had a performance like this, but I'd wager to guess it was probably a few years ago when the Gamecocks scored 63 points and just had a magical night against number 5 Tennessee in that upset win back in 2022. But something about this offense just feels and looks completely different from the version of this offense under Mike Shula, who was fired a few weeks back. And since Mike Furry's taken over, got to give props where it's due. I know it's against Coastal Carolina, but this offense in the first half against Texas A&M looked really good, putting up over 300 yards in that first half a week earlier. But in the first half of this game against Coastal Carolina, had 419 yards of offense. Like, I don't care who South Carolina is playing. It could be a random team, York Tech. It could be any team you want to name, just a random school that you've never heard of. That's a really impressive number to look at. And then you finish with nearly 600 yards on the day. You got to give props where it's due. This offense really has looked much better since Furry's taken over, and there's no doubt about that. Defensively, I think it stinks for the defense that they were not able to get the shutout in this game. Now, there's a big caveat to that because the 7 points that Coastal Carolina scored in this game did come on a blocked punt in the fourth quarter, which Beamer did note after the game was made him feel sick that there was a punt blocked for a touchdown, since South Carolina's been very good on special teams this year. But that moment right there, just watching that play, it was kind of like, wow, did that really just happen? And it did. It kind of spoiled an otherwise. I mean, it was a defense alone was just fantastic in this game. I mean, held the offense for Coastal to 0 points, got off the field a lot, made some really big stops in this game when Coastal did get down close to the red zone, and defense showed up all night long. One big standout from this game has to be Sean Murphy, who was just tremendous in this game. 12 tackles, had 2.5 TFLs. In my premium story on Gamecock Central, my analysis from the game, Sean Murphy was my defensive player of the game, and for good reason. I think I pointed out, is it fair to say that this was his best game as a Gamecock? I certainly think so. He was tremendous, and a lot of players had really big performances in this one. Jaden Sellers, right out of the gate, was phenomenal. Had that 75-yard touchdown from the first play from scrimmage, 127 yards of the night. Donovan Murphy had a really nice game too, 4 catches, 58 yards. And how about those running backs? Jordan Howell, Matt Fuller, who I personally think should be getting a lot more touches. It should have happened probably a few weeks ago now, but they've really played well recently. Howell did last week against A&M and limited touches on the ground. And then tonight against the Chanticleers, really good performance from those two guys, combining for, I think it was 133 yards total. And then Lenore Sellers, he played very well in this game. Not too many things to complain about. You can talk about a missed throw here or there, but overall, really good. Nearly threw for 300 yards, 16 of 20 passing, 80% completion rate. Also had 2 touchdowns on the ground. So overall, just a really nice night for South Carolina on Senior Day. 4-7 on the year now. Still not going bowling, but have a chance to kind of end this season on a bit of a high note when Clemson will come to town next weekend, November 29th, next Saturday, at Williams-Brice Stadium. Kickoff will be at noon on SEC Network, and I will be back at Williams-Brice Stadium providing all live coverage and updates. I know the setting behind me is kind of weird. I'm in my hotel room right now in West Virginia as I'm covering South Carolina men's basketball and playing in the Greenbrier Tip-Off Tournament. They'll be playing Northwestern tomorrow at 5 p.m. from the Greenbrier, but I will be back in Columbia as usual next weekend covering that game against arch rival Clemson. So once again, South Carolina picking up a 51-7 win over Coastal Carolina to end a 5-game losing streak. For GamecockCentral.com, I'm Jack Veltri.